conservative in some ways over here. And we really couldn't get enthusiasm per se. We were so busy on other things, including this trolley circle area. But one guy stepped up, and he was persistent, and he went with it all the way. It was really a committee of one there for several months, and we were going to do this if, regardless of what we thought. And he was right, and you know, when we got through the process where it started, and we had won the grant, it's really turned out to be fantastic. So when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. When I'm right, I'm right. But when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Gary, you guys are on deck, right? Snitzelberg's on deck and funded. So you guys are getting the paid program over in Snitzelberg and Portland. I think those are the next two funded. So we got it rolling in the city. It's great that we started here. But with that, Nate, I think you're going to talk a little bit, and then I want you to introduce our good friend Tom Owen.
Well, as Steve said, it was probably a good 8 months or so that we've been walking, so I have about 8 months of stories to say, but I only got 2.5 minutes to do it, so bear with me a little bit. But I really want to talk about my journey, and then I want to talk about ideas, and then we can go from there. So I relatively am new to the neighborhood, so I wanted to get involved, and I saw these gardens. So I said, okay, let's get involved with them, and the best thing to do would be to kind of celebrate where they came from, to find out like where they come from, and it was actually funding from the city. So why don't we make a big plaque or like a neat news kiosk to say, why don't we, you know, this is where it is, what can we do more? So I went to, you know, Steve about this, and he said, well, that happens to be this paint program. He's connected on that. And we can get a little bit of money, and so I just went to this event in February when the snow was about a foot deep, and over to the water tower on Zorn, and Hallie's husband, and Hallie was there, doing kind of like a neat thing. I'd never been a part of anything, and that's where we met, and we batted around ideas a lot, like many different ideas, and we ended up with Margie and Mary Dennis, and so we went and got permission from the board, because, you know, Steve needs to know. And then we not only did we get permission from the board, but we won the grant. So that's another huge hurdle. So, oh my gosh, these are like many steps that are going in the right direction. And then the next thing is finding the metal. So that's all found, you know, pretty much. So where do we store it? You know, we have to find a place to store all that stuff and put it together. And so when the call out was out, oh, we need to find all this extra metal, I just peered down to Beargrass Creek, and I found all these little shrapnel things down in Beargrass Creek. So now we have a coup of all this found metal. We got the sewer department involved. So I mean, simultaneously with all that stuff, we were working with businesses and the walking tour and mapping ideas, and we were asking the city for photocopying and a list of businesses. We got accepted on all that stuff. So again, who am I? I'm just a neighbor. So we ended up with Scope Creek, which is a cool word. And so what happened is that they just didn't have any time, money, all that stuff. So they said, Nate, can you we pick up the color, just do the doors. So the bad door job of painting is me. It's not them. But it is really a nice color. You can see how they kind of come all together. So, but I don't have any time. So what I did was that when we ran out of sunlight, and we ran out of sunlight, so I brought these babies out. You ever seen these? These are absolutely wonderful. And you can actually paint in the middle of the night. Yeah. So, you know, no one says you can't do it, so I do it. And I'm not the artist, so if it's not perfect, then, you know, it's not, no skin on my back at all. So, not only did I paint the doors, but this morning I was shining, I was brassing up the numbers on top of the door, and those are really bright now, but that was, but what happened though, is I was painting and doing this stuff in the dark, and then this neighbor lady came up and said, oh, that's a cool head lamp you got. It's like, there's all this art all around us. Like, I can use it on my paper route from now on. So I guess what's cool is that this is about neighbor talking to neighbor. And that's what this is supposed to initiate. It's not like, oh, look at the wonderful artist, because we could do cool kumbaya for a long time, believe me. But it's all about, let's initiate things that have never happened before in the neighborhood. So there's a blog of a picture of a woman standing on the spot where her grandmother was born, or she was born or something. And you know what that is? That's engagement, that's connection. And there also is neighbors talking to artists. And there are tons of network and relationship possibilities. For instance, there's Margie and Nate, and I lived next door to each other in Irish Hill, but we never learned that. And Margie lived probably next door to, across the street from, what's your name?
Lisa.
Lisa Dellinger. So you gotta know that connection if you don't know that already.
Center for Neighborhoods.
Yep. Okay, so, and also there's a musician, I don't know if the musician's here, but there's also the artists in the neighborhood of the musicians. And the Hope Mills, you know, all that kind of stuff. They're practicing rock band and rock music all the time, so there's musicians coming out of that place at school. So I'm almost done, but what I like is that there's also in the neighborhood talking to the city about the photocopying and talking about the gardens, and I want more gardens too, you know, than just outside here, so there's, you know, opportunities to do good things. And also the whole idea of doing more things outside, so the walking tour is something we really ought to celebrate, because getting out and walking is something, you know, you get in the car, you work all day, get back in the car, you sit down. So, and the last thing is, the idea is the history that's involved here. It blew me away, I had to sit down, when I learned that fleur-de-lis is stemmed from a frog, and Frogtown and France and all that stuff. So that's pretty neat. So what happens is that this place where we're standing used to be full of disease, full of hate crimes, and a swamp, and ignominy. And so through civic development, we really have turned it into something totally better. Now there is some aspect I need to warn everybody and announce for the first time in history, is that when I was doing the brassing this morning, I was scared to death. I heard a noise, and then there was this man standing like right next to me, and it was like freaking me out, and then it's like, oh, that's the guy, that's the metal guy, because I was like precarious and I did not want to be overwhelmed or anything. So I'm quite certain that, not this house, but that place, that art is haunted already. Frogtown Frank is his name. So the sense of place that we have here is just awesome. This is a landmark, and we're only just getting started, so join in. Like I said, I'm just a neighbor, we're all just neighbors. Get involved with this, and again, as I said again, we kind of need a plaque, not only for where the gardens came from, but where this whole art thing came from and all that kind of stuff. So we're on the move. So I think that's all I have to say, and thanks for bearing with me.